Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone in everywhere. I hope you all are good today. We are Group 7 from Literary Reading 203. We would like to present our reading project and our discussion about novel on the last meeting. Let me introduce you to our members. The first is me, Lucky Puput Hidayah. The second is Safira Rohmania, and then Farah Hardina Ardiani, and the last is Sabrina Ayu Wulandari. In this video presentation, we have 4 topics to inform to you. The first is the summary of the novel. The second is the issues that talking about. The third is our discussion of the issues, and the last is the conclusion. Okay, before we move to our first topic, let me inform you about the novel first. Jude the Obscure. Jude the Obscure is a novel by Thomas Hardy, which began as a magazine serial in December 1894 and was first published in book form in 1895. It is Hardy's last completed novel. Its protagonist, Jude Fawley, is a working-class young man, a stonemason who dreams of becoming scholars.
Hello, I am Safira Rohmania, and now I'm gonna explain about the next material. Okay, the next material is the summary. Jude Foley, a poor villager, wanted to enter the divinity school at Christminster, or the University of Oxford. Sidetracked by Arabella Dawn, an earthy country girl who pretended to be pregnant by Jude, and then Jude married her, but then he was deserted. He earned a living as a stonemason at Christminster. There, he fell in love with his independent-minded cousin, Sue Brighthead. Out of a sense of obligation, Sue married the schoolmaster, Phillotson, who has helped her. Unable to bear living with Phillotson, she returned to live with Jude and eventually bear his children out of wedlock. Their poverty and the weight of society's disapproval began to take a toll on Sue and Jude. The climax occurred when Jude's son, by Arabella, hung Sue and Jude's children and himself. In penance, Sue returned to Phillotson and the church, and then Jude returned to Arabella and eventually died miserably. The next material is about issues in Jude the Obscure. The first issue is Jude was working so hard on his study in order to get the scholarship to enter the divinity school at Christminster. The second issue is Jude got tricked by Arabella and ended up with marrying her. Sadly, things didn't go well because Arabella kept demanding her husband Jude. The third issue is Arabella's son with Jude caught up hanging himself and two of Sue and Jude's children. And then the fourth issue is Sue came back to Fullerton because she realized that living up with Jude is way more suffering. And then the last issue is, in the end, Arabella chose another man rather than taking care of Jude that was sick at that time. That's all from me. The next material will be explained by my friend.
3. Discussion of the issues. The first issue is talking about Jude's struggle on his study so that he could get the scholarship due to his economic situation. It implies that Jude could not afford his own study by his own money because he's just a poor man that lives in the village. The second issue is about Jude that got trapped in Arabella's plan that he should marry Arabella because Arabella said that Jude is the father of the baby. But in the end, Arabella dumped Jude because he's not a rich man. It shows that Arabella is a gold digger and she only wants to marry a rich man, and Jude is not one of them. That's why Arabella left Jude. The third issue is talking about the death of Jude's son. Jude's son chose to kill himself by hanging himself and two of his step siblings because three of them think that they only bring the burden because of the economic situation for their parents. And another reason is because they realized that they had no future because of their parents always argue and the topic is always about the economy. The two of Jude's step siblings also came from the forbidden relationship of Jude and Sue, and it caused social issues for their family.
Okay, I would like to continue the presentation about discussion of the issues. Number 4. When she coming back to her official husband, she does realize that living up with Jude was a troublesome life. She never felt safe and sound. She had to sell cakes and cookies to make a living with him. Also, the promise that Jude made about having married her was never been kept. They had to sneaking up every time because they don't have a house yet. She chose to get back to her husband even though her marriage was an arranged marriage. Besides to make up for her guilt about her children's death, she knows that living with Pitolson is way more comfortable because he's an occupied man. And the last is Arabelle chose another man she would like to live after Jude died miserable. After all the time she lived with Jude and had to take care of him because of his illness. Arabelle gave up. She is tired of waiting to get remarried with Jude, as he promised. At the end of the day, Arabelle's still a good dinger. Jude died miserable without anyone beside him. Sue doesn't even know about Jude's death, and Arabelle pretends that Jude passed away because of his own illness, not because she left him and went to the festival with another man. Okay, next I want to explain about the conclusion. The conclusion of the story is at the end of the day, Jude is kept end up being alone because of his economic condition. He couldn't be able to keep anyone beside him. They dump him after they live for a miserable life with Jude. Sue got back to her official and occupied husband and Sue chose to live with another man.
while Jude died pathetically and no one cared about his struggle. And the conclusion from the issues is somehow deals with poverty is a hard time for anyone who live it. They had to make a living for their life and against the society who always underestimate their existence just because they are poor.
That's all from our presentation about our reading project and our discussion about the novel Jude Obscure. Thank you and see you on the next presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.